And hey, everybody, welcome back after 1 year to Weekday Warriors of Wrestling. It's been a busy year for both myself and Patrick because we have new kids. So we had a lot less time, but we thought that this was such a momentous show and, so many things going on. We had to do one. So we are back. How's it going, pal?
Hey, it's going great. It's nice to be back here with you after a year. A lot has changed in both of our lives, but I'm excited to talk about wrestling. Fortunately, it feels like not much has happened in the year we've been gone because wrestling's been kind of boring. Like nothing has happened at all.
It's like it's been like 7 years within one of like stories and like insanity. And I mean, if I would have told you, well, if I would have told you a year ago, you would have believed it. But if I would have told you 3 years ago, yeah, 3 years ago, that Cody Rhodes would defeat Roman Reigns in the main event of WrestleMania, you would have called me crazy. But here we are. The main event happened, and I thought it was spectacular. I thought it was. I mean, people say it's the best ending to a WrestleMania ever. I would not disagree with that. As far as like a bad guy being taken down by a good guy, my only real complaint with the match would be, and I think this was most people's expectation and complaint, and it's not like, oh, they promised this and they didn't do it. It just would have been better to have Austin instead of Undertaker take out The Rock. I think it would have just been like a nice cap on it, but it's still like really, really works well, the whole match. But um, obviously, we should talk about this before the rest of the show. So, what did you think of the match?
I thought the match was spectacular. God, thinking back a year ago when they had the first match, and that match I thought was amazing up until the finish, which kind of deflated the entire thing. And we all kind of expected it. It's like, okay, they're going to do, Cody versus Roman 2 Electric Boogaloo at 40, but would they be able to generate that same level of interest and belief in Cody a second time around? I don't know. It'd be hard, not impossible, but it's not hard, but or it is hard. But thank God for The Rock, because it felt like The Rock came on board and just injected everything with a lot more life and excitement that wouldn't have been there otherwise. And I think WrestleMania 40 was serviced very, very well by having him involved, that it created a very satisfying payoff to the entire thing.
Yeah, I mean, in retrospect, I remember at the time, everyone, myself included, was like, "Why would you ever, you know, have Cody lose this?" And in retrospect, it worked well because Roman got more over as a heel, Cody got more over as a face. You were able to like extend it out, which is like it's always the thing, right? You don't want to ride these things too long, like with with the NWO, and you want to make sure you like hit it on the crest. And I think they did that here. I mean, there was a point I felt around SummerSlam with Roman versus Jay, and I didn't think that match was very good. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe this bloodline thing is running on fumes. And then WWE brought Punk back, so they injected some more energy into the show. And then, of course, like you said, The Rock came back and really gave a new dimension to the bloodline and this story. And like they took it to the next level with this thing. It was super satisfying. It's kind of what we've always talked about, Patrick. We're like, you and I, despite growing up with WWE, always kind of had that JCP mentality of like have a strong heel and then have a great good guy beat him eventually, but run with the heel. And that's what they did. And they did it. They stuck the landing. I mean, no matter what happens after this, it could be total garbage, and it's WWE, so it could be. But Vince is gone, and it's the Renaissance era, as Cody's calling it. Triple H is not, but that's because Cody trademarked it. But yeah, and great match. It was very cool how Cody's wrestling Avengers, each of them took out their counterpart in the bloodline, with the exception of Undertaker and Rock. But what are you going to do? But yeah, no. So I thought it was super cool and awesome and great and fun, and like just it was a very cool thing, and you knew it was a big match because they rung the bell and the crowd cheered. There's been a few matches where they do that. Goldberg and Hogan is one. In fact, Heenan calls that out like right after Danielson and Omega at Arthur Ashe that I was there. That's another one. And then the pop when Cody wins, it's almost like they count three and then there's a cheer after the three. They're like, holy shit, that was it. It reminded me, I mean, not the same level, but it reminded me a little bit of the streak with like, there's like the 1, 2, 3, boom, and then there's like a beat and a reaction to it. So, I mean, that was made possible by the fact that this guy had this 4-year title reign. And boy, yeah, they really stuck the landing on this.
Absolutely, 100%. And I mean, we could go through WrestleMania match by match and do all that other stuff, but really it was all about that main event and whether or not that would deliver, and it did. So it made the entire event worth it.
And by the way, to CM Punk and Seth Rollins and everyone that's watching, the night one of the show is not the main event of WrestleMania. It doesn't count. You don't get to say you main evented WrestleMania unless you're the main event of night 2. That's when the event ends. So that's it. Stop trying to act like that is the main event. That's the same as when they had 2 main events on the same show.
WrestleMania 8? Or how about, my favorite was 19 where it had like 4 or 5.
Yeah, yeah. There's one where there's like, no, I never mind. I can't think of it. All right, so let's go through this WrestleMania here. We don't need to go in depth for all of these, but let's start off with the Women's World Championship match. It was Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch. Is that your small child, Pat?
That is my small child.
Oh, I was like, is he slightly and quietly saying something into the microphone? But I thought this was lacking energy. Honestly, it was like fine, but it was like, like it was fine. Like I wasn't super impressed with this as an opener.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those matches where the way matches are worked now, like, yes, honey, yes. Like 20 years ago, this match would have been amazing, but we see matches like this every single week, so now it just doesn't feel as special. So it just kind of felt like an ordinary match. Not bad, just kind of ordinary.
Yeah. We had the 6-pack tag team ladder match. This was I want to point out, this is not going to be like those like 2019 or 2018 NXT shows or 2021 AEW show where every match is like insane and stuff. This was like, there weren't like a bunch of amazing top tier matches, but the show was easy to watch. And I think that's something that people look for in 2024 is an easy to watch show. That said, we're going match by match just because we're like reviewing it.
And we're dorks.
This thing was fine. Austin Theory and Grayson Waller won one of the titles, and the New Catch Republic got the other. Wait, no, Awesome Truth, right?
Yes. A-Town Down Under and Awesome Truth. Yes.
And Awesome Truth. Yeah.
I'll be completely honest with you. I've gotten to a point with these multi-man ladder matches where they've just become white noise to me, where they all look the same now. And I've been going back and watching some old WrestleManias, and it's even impacting like the classic ones that we revere, like the classic TLC matches. And it just, I don't know, they've done too many of them too frequently with no storyline, and matches like this just don't register anymore. And personally, I would have preferred it if it was just Awesome Truth versus Judgment Day in a normal tag match, because that was the storyline to me.
Yeah, no, and it's like, I didn't feel the announcers did a great job of getting over that key story. And maybe it's because there's like 10 million things going on, but I didn't get like R-Truth has been doing this with Judgment Day for 3 months, and Miz is like, like, I don't know, that didn't really come through that there even was a storyline. I know there was. I know what R-Truth has been doing since he's been back. We know the history of Miz and R-Truth, but like they didn't really, I don't know, they didn't seem to tell any of that story there. It was whatever, that was pretty much it for that. Rey Mysterio and Andrade, which I think it was originally supposed to be Carlito, right?
It was supposed to be Dragon Lee.
Dragon Lee, yes. Um, Beat Santos Escobar and Dirty Dominic Mysterio. Dom and Ray have a Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens destined to do this forever. This is their second WrestleMania match against each other. I don't know. This was fine. It wasn't as good. It wasn't anywhere near as good as last year with the Ray Dom match where Dom came out of the paddy wagon. That was fantastic. But yeah, I mean, this is fine. I'm doing a lot of shrugging on this first night.
Yeah, this match, I saw it on paper and it just reminded me of WCW Cruiserweight Division. That was the first thought that popped in my head. Ray's involvement definitely assisted in that, but I don't know, like to go from a singles match last year to a tag match this year with Ray and Dom, like I don't know, it just again not terrible, just kind of fell flat in comparison to what came before.
Speaking of what comes before, what comes next? It's Jay and Jimmy Uso. Jay won. I thought this match kind of sucked. It's so funny because I'm going to recommend this pay-per-view and I'm like and I haven't said there's one good match so far. So, but yeah, I was like, it was okay. So to me as a single, Jay hardly delivers. Like I do not enjoy his matches. I think anytime he's been put in a big spot, he doesn't seem to deliver. I don't know. It was fine. The crowd didn't seem super into it. It was like, I don't know. I don't know if it was the cold air or something on that first night, but it just seemed off.
I think I know what the problem was. And there's been talk in wrestling past about how tag team partners don't make great opponents sometimes. It's kind of a, kind of a 50-50 shot. And, sometimes family members don't make great opponents. But I think in this case, part of the problem is that both Jimmy and Jay wrestle very similarly. And they're also twins, so they look identical. So it's hard to get a sense of who the heel is and who the face is, at least immediately looking at it. You don't get an instant oh, that's the baby face and that's the heel because they look the same. So, yeah. And they wrestle exactly the same too. So it just, their two styles didn't mesh well because there's no contrast. They're just kind of identical to each other, which that's been a problem in wrestling with guys that are a little too similar.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. Then we had Jade, Bianca, and Naomi taking on Damage Control. I mean, this was a nothing match. I think it's Bianca's first time that she isn't challenging for a title. Jade, I mean, Jade always looks like a superstar. Another one that has left AEW since we've last done a show. Another big miss by Tony Khan. He seems to just let people like Jade and Cody go, and they're like, yeah, it's fine. Let's just give them superstars. Especially since the presentation is exactly the same. But yeah, I mean, this was it was a nothing match. It was fine, It
was a match designed to show off Jade Cargill. And, the biggest knock on Jade has always been her wrestling ability, where she's still a little green. So put her in a 6-person tag where other people can kind of hide her weaknesses and let her look good. So for what it was designed to do, the match was good.
Yep. Okay, so next is one we're going to recommend because it's Sami Zayn finally ending Gunther's reign with the Intercontinental title, and this was fantastic. I mean, just a classic wrestling match, just a classic underdog, has been beaten before, and once again, a strong heel who has been beating people pretty consistently and cleanly over his title reign, and the good guy wins, and it was a great moment. They had a nice moment with Kevin Owens before Sammy went out. I mean, great stuff.
Yeah, you pretty much summed it up. It was, two great workers, one great heel, one great face, and sometimes it's the basic stuff that works. And this was another example of that. I thought this was far and away my favorite match of night one.
Okay, and then we had the main event. So a lot of things about this main event. It was the Bloodline. It was Rock and Roman against Cody and Rollins. This match and the star power in this match felt like as big of a match since Mega Powers against, I don't know, DiBiase and Andre. Yeah. It felt like that level of star power. And yes, I'm skipping over the Attitude Era because I don't think they had nothing ever felt that big. Like this was like there were 72,000 people watching these guys. Everybody's on the top of their game. Everybody feels like a giant star. So the match is apparently 45 minutes. It did not feel that long. Felt a little long, but it did not feel that long. You got to see things you hadn't seen before because Rock has never wrestled Rollins or Rhodes. And then you got to see things you had seen before in a different twist with like Reigns and Cody and Reigns and Rollins. But with the build up to this, which was fantastic, everybody had a reason to be there. Everybody had their interpersonal like conflict documented. Some people were like, oh, there wasn't a lot of moves or whatever, which, if that's your cup of tea, then this is not your cup of tea then. But it just felt like such a big deal. I don't know. It just felt like a big time thing, like a big boxing match, And so that's not like, and the content was like, I mean, I believed these guys were doing what they were doing. Like Rock didn't look like noticeably gassed to me like he did 10 years ago. I mean, the Bloodline did what they did. They won, and they set up a tough spot for the heels the faces the next night. I thought it was perfect for what it was supposed to do.
Yeah, I would say, like, first of all, this was.
You can disagree with me, Patrick. It's allowed.
Oh yeah, for sure. This was the best built match at this WrestleMania, and like you said, it felt huge, and I enjoyed most of it. I did feel the length a little bit, and it was like, man, this thing's going long. And I'll be honest, I didn't see night one live. I watched it the next morning playing catch up, and when I saw how much time was left, I was like, oh my God, how long was this thing?
Yeah.
It felt a little long, but it wasn't bad. I generally enjoyed it, and it perfectly set up the building blocks we needed to get to night two, which is what it was designed to do. So we got The Rock, we got spectacle, and we got Cody suffering a big loss before his ultimate triumph the next night. So everything that it needed to do, it succeeded in.
So up next was the second night, and we opened up with perhaps the best character in professional wrestling today, DM Hunk, Drew McIntyre, who, despite having zero charisma during his entire 2020 title run, has over the past like 4 months become just fucking must-watch TV. Beat Rollins in a match that I did not like because it was fine, whatever, but it was one of those like finisher kick out fest where he like had 19 claymores and kicked out of a bunch of stomps and pedigrees, and it was just like, ugh, like why are we doing this already?
It was a video game match.
Yeah, it was a video game match. I like McIntyre went over, and then he got to taunt CM Punk, which was very fun, and then of course CM Punk beat him up, and then Damian Priest cashed in. So I get why they did this, because first of all, they're never going to get the title on Priest if they don't. Which is why Money in the Bank needs to not be a guaranteed thing each year. Like it needs to be like a guaranteed event. It just needs to be like, when we need it, here you go. But so the match wasn't especially grueling or long, and Drew was like fine at the end of it. So the fact that CM Punk tripped him and then punched him a few times was like, I'm like, I don't know if that's enough to take his hit points down to 0 here. But I understand that they probably want Drew to win the thing in Scotland at the castle to set up a Punk feud or a return match with Rollins down the road. And I guess it gives him more like righteous indignation. So there's that as far as character work. But I'm like, I would just like let Drew I don't know if it needed to be done, but I'll reserve judgment. Let's see where it goes. Has new meaning in a post Vince world.
Yes, it definitely does. I get that they wanted to add fuel to the fire of Drew versus Punk, and to that end, I was okay with this. I also like that the match wasn't that long, so I was like, in an age where matches are just getting longer and longer and longer, it was nice to see one that just kind of got its point across and then got us to the finish line without wasting too much of our time. So this was fine overall and set up potential stories for later. I wasn't enamored with it, but I wasn't annoyed by it either.
So the next one you might be enamored by, because I don't think, with the exception of Snoop Dogg being hilarious and weird on the commentary, it was very good. And that's Lashley and the Street Profits defeating the Final Testament, which is Karrion Kross, Akam, and Razar. Which, by the way, WWE has so many Gothic themed stables. Actually, forget WWE. Pro wrestling has so many Gothic themed stables. There's the Final Testament. There's the Judgment Day. There's the House of Black. There's the House of Torture. There's LIJ. There's so many weird horror themed stuff that goes on out in pro wrestling.
And none of them are as scary as the Ministry of Darkness. Better workers, but there's none of them that are as effectively scary as the Ministry of Darkness.
Yeah. Anyway, and Bubba Ray was the referee. He was taking time away from yelling at people on his weird show. So it was in Philly, so that's fine. Yeah, I mean, whatever.
Yeah, I had no hope for this match going in. I'm not a fan of Final Testament as a concept, so I had no interest in this. So the fact that they threw in some window dressing and brightened it up a little bit, it was like, it was, for a filler, it was kind of fun. Nothing I'm going to write home about, but again, it didn't offend me.
Then we had LA Knight beating AJ Styles, or HGH Styles, I may say. This was fine. I think it's so interesting. Not that he's not over, and not that he's not like a big deal or anything, but LA Knight in the summer and fall, I had people telling me he should be the guy to knock off Roman, and I would be like, oh, let's hold off on that. But yeah, it feels like it's probably had peaked at some point. I mean, he's still very popular, but I don't know if that's going to sustain over time. But the match was fine.
Yeah, this was one of my problems with doing LA Knight versus Roman in the first place. I didn't feel like LA Knight was going to beat Roman. That was an obvious call. And I felt like he was so over that suffering that big a loss would have hurt him a little bit. And it feels like it did hurt him a little bit. But leading into Mania, I thought him and AJ did some okay stuff. And I thought this match was good. I think it was the only match that wasn't gimmicked or had a title involved or some kind of stipulation. So it was...
That is accurate.
Yeah, it was nice to get just a straight up singles match. So this was good, solid. The TNA alumni match. It was fine for what it was.
Yeah. Then we had a triple threat match for the U.S. Championship. It's Logan Paul against Owens and Orton. Logan Paul had pulled the Rock Ken Shamrock Royal Rumble move with Kevin Owens at the Royal Rumble, and Randy Orton has gotten involved. Paul won with a frog splash on Owens, I believe. But yeah, this was really good. I like this. I mean, I like everything Logan Paul does. I think he's like, first of all, I think he is great. But I'm like, imagine if this guy just became a pro wrestler and just was a pro. He's tall, he's handsome, he understands crowd interaction and how to build up a character. He's athletic. There's almost nothing he doesn't have. If you were, they always say about if you were building a sports entertainer, he'd look exactly like Randy Orton. I think he'd look exactly like Logan Paul. And it's just amazing to me how good he continues to be. And feels like such a big deal. So yeah, I like this match. I liked Randy Orton, RKOing I Show Speed. I don't know who that guy is, but I assume the kids do. Yeah, this was I thought it was a lot of fun for a triple threat.
Yeah, it was. I second all of your sentiments about Logan Paul. That guy, you always hear the wrestling purists that are like, oh, this outsider coming in and stealing spots from the other guys. I'm like, yeah, but Logan performs better than 95% of the roster. So it's like,
yeah.
What are you going to do? I mean, you can't argue with the quality of it. I mean, he sells better than almost anybody out there today. And
it's really kind of amazing just how how naturally this stuff comes to him.
Yeah, and there are guys that do this for 15, 20 years and it doesn't come this naturally to them. So, major credit to him. And this match was good. It was not even one of his better ones. So it's this is him on the scale of Logan Paul matches, this is probably somewhere in the middle, which indicates just how good he really is.
Yeah. Next, we had the women's championship match. Bayley defeated Io Sky. People love this. I did not. Not that I disliked it. I was just like, I don't know. Like it just didn't move me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And well, there was some cries on Twitter that this match should have gotten the night one main event spot, which I
That's
absolutely.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it is ridiculous because they were like, oh, the Royal Rumble winner should get the main event. I'm like, yeah, that same logic gave us a shitty main event at WrestleMania 18. So slow your roll on that type of stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, this one, I thought the match was fine. I think the reason people liked it is because Bayley won, and that
Sure.
helped. She got her big moment at WrestleMania because she was pretty much the only one of the four horsewomen that didn't get a big moment at WrestleMania. So it's like, all right, we finally completed that journey where all four women got their big spotlight moments on the grand stage. And it was satisfying to that end. I don't think it was a match of the year or anything like that, but it was solid.
And then we had well, we already talked about the main event. So yeah, that was WrestleMania. And like I said, it's not like you're going to go through this thing and like, boy, every match is fantastic. But if you haven't seen the show, I can't imagine anyone's listening that hasn't. But if you haven't seen the show, it's an easy watch. I remember getting through these, and one of my biggest issues with AEW pay-per-views, and WWE has been a lot better about this lately, is the length. Like I'm just like, I need like caffeine to stay up that late. And like for Revolution, like I watched the thing and I'm like, fuck, I'm like, it's like 12 or whatever it is. Like, can't we do a 4 hour pay-per-view and like that or a 3 hour pay-per-view? That would be amazing. But you know, save some of those matches for TV, please. And you can do them there. But WWE's have been like pretty tight, not a lot of filler, not a lot of fluff. And they end relatively early. So I think that's good. And it makes it infinitely more watchable.
And the two-night format also helps with this. I mean, some people have complained about Mania being 2 nights and says it's too much. It's like, look, given the options between 2 3 to 4 hour shows and 1 8 hour
7 hour,
7 however long because WrestleMania 35 was ridiculous in how long it was. And yeah, no more of that. So given the options, I'll take 2 nights that I can absorb a little easier than just one marathon of a show that tests my ability to stay awake. It's this is so much better. And like you said, WWE, I think it's ever since they moved to Peacock, they've been kind of shortening the pay-per-views a little bit and keeping it to that like 3.5 hour range, which is a lot
the sweet spot. Yeah.
Way better than 4 or 5 hours.
I mean, like that's why I liked watching. I mean, it wasn't much shorter, but I liked All In because it was in the middle of the day because it has the London time zone. So you're like, okay, cool. I'm done at like 5 o'clock. Like awesome, So so yeah. But speaking of All In, we should talk about tomorrow night, or if you guys are probably listening to this since we're recording it on Tuesday, April 9th, you'll probably hear it on Wednesday, April 10th in the morning. So tonight, we're theoretically going to see the Brawl-In footage from August.
Which, I mean, I'm a drama vampire, so I'm
Me too,
because I'm morbidly curious and I want to see what this footage shows.
So
as a response to the Punk interview, which is obviously what this is, I don't know if this is the right way to go about it. I don't know for AEW's long-term potential what this does for them. It generates interest for a night, but I don't know like what kind of goodwill they're going to get from this outside of like a circus top hat wielding, Tony Khan with a top hat going, come and see the freak show, ladies and gentlemen. Like what kind of long-term help this is going to do for them. If not make them look worse, just that something like this could happen on their watch. Now, the footage could make Punk look really bad and make him look like a liar coming out of that interview. I don't know, but I don't know. This feels like a desperation move by AEW.
So that's what everyone's saying. And so number one, we can all agree that Punk is a liar about like 90% of the things he said about the interview. Ironically, one of the things that he said is correct is that Tony Khan is a really shitty boss and like can't manage anyone and is like really bad at like as a manager. Like he's terrible. Like that's obvious, So everyone thinks this is going to be bad for AEW. It might be. Might be terrible. It might they might, run out of whatever goodwill they have left or whatnot. Um, First of all, it's very rarely black and white. People have these rules. They're like, oh, you're building to a match you can't deliver. You're building to Jack Perry and CM Punk, and you can't deliver that match in AEW. You would only be able to do it in WWE or whatever. And I think it seems like it makes sense, but it doesn't. So Vince McMahon, after the Montreal Screwjob, like dedicated like Jesus, like 3 to 4 weeks of TV to Bret Hart. Now Bret was not on the show. There was no ever payoff for Bret and Vince, or Bret and Sean. They had a little person come out and Sean pinned him. They made lots of jokes. Vince cut a bunch of interviews. They spent all this TV time on Bret. And you would think that would have hurt the company, but it did not. Vince got over as this mega heel. Sean was a hotter heel, and then Austin beat him. And it all worked out somehow, and it really didn't hamper them at all. Now you can make the case that, hey, 97 WWF was putting these these great shows on, and then people saw them, and this so like they have a better streak of great shows than AEW has as far as like Dynamites go. So you could say that maybe that's the case, but it doesn't always align to what you like, to these like unwritten rules professional wrestling has. So once again, maybe it'll fail. Maybe it'll like be ridiculous. Everyone hates it. Maybe, I don't know, but I'm just saying, you never know with this kind of stuff. Now, as far as my opinion on it, I want to see it, because who doesn't want to see it? We joked all like fall long, like release the footage, Tony, like show us what happens on there. So it might be a nothing burger. Like it might be like, whatever. I think the best case scenario for them, and people even, don't like this, but the best case scenario is like Jack Perry, like slips out of the choke, which some people said he might have, and like gets one on Punk or whatever, and then Punk looks like an idiot, and you can like meme him or whatever, and then he kind of looks stupid. But you would need to build Jack Perry as like, it's interesting because people pointed out, he would be a face because the AEW audience doesn't like Punk, and then Jack's a face, but he's supposed to be a heel. And the Bucks, are feuding with FTR, so you can but they're heels, and it is complicated. It like I said, it may not work, but we don't know that, and I definitely want to see what's on the tape. So I will absolutely be tuning in. And I even saw, it's funny, I have a friend, former coworker. What did he say to me? This is a guy that watched AEW a lot in 2020, 2021. Has not watched probably for the past year and a half. He wants to watch this show. I said, I can't wait to see the footage, because he texted me about something else. And he says, must see TV. He says, yeah, same. Bunch of wrestling losers bitching about it. He's a casual fan. He does not watch. He watches pay-per-views, and that's about it. He says, must see TV. He says, it doesn't make AEW look bad at all. It's an exciting content opportunity, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, so the point is, this is a guy that I would consider a non-AEW super fan and a casual fan. And he's like, I want to see this. So I would not be surprised if they do their biggest number in 6 months for this. So, I mean, we'll see. Could blow up in their face. All I know is I want to see it, and it'll be interesting to see how many other people want to see it.
Yeah, well, I'm tuning in tomorrow night, and I never watch the shows live anymore. I always watch it the next day. So, yeah, it'll be very fascinating to see that footage. Again, I'm a drama vampire, and a lot of people are, so I think it's going to attract people. My concern is, moving forward past that, because, to your point, I don't think they have the creative in place that WWF did in '97 to really capitalize on something like that. So, who knows? But it'll be fascinating all the same.
Yeah, well, and we'll people have said we'll move past him, move on. I'm like, well, they did that and it didn't work. It's still there's still one narrative that's getting out there, and it's not theirs. So it's I don't know, what else do you have to lose? You're already hitting record low numbers. What you're gonna hit more record low number. You might as well try something else. So, you know, whatever. I mean, WWE released when CM Punk said the stuff about Amon, and they released that video of all those arrows pointing above his at his butt to show where the to show where that you know, the fatty deposit was. That wasn't MRSA, which Punk actually recanted in court. But yeah, so we will see tomorrow night. But I think consensus for this weekend, WrestleMania, huge, big show for WWE, crowning Cody Rhodes like no one has been crowned ever before, I don't think.
No.
And we see where the new era goes from here, right?
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for, you know, first time in a while. Maybe we'll do something soon. Maybe not. We'll see what the reaction is for this. But for Patrick Kelly, I'm Eric Clancy, and we are
Signing off.